Welcome back to Best Military Battles. In today's video, we are diving deep into the oldest known battle in which tactics and formations were used. It's the Battle of Kadesh in 1285 BC. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic battles of history. For starters, we need to know the context of this battle between the Egyptians and the Hittites. The Hittite Empire of the 14th century BC faces many external threats, including the Arzwa people's revolts in the west, the raiding Gasca tribes to the north, the waning Mitanni Empire to the east, the growing Assyrian Empire to the southeast, and the colossal Egyptian Empire to the south. During this time, Hatti's strategic objective is to ensure vital trade routes are kept open, an increasingly difficult objective given the state power dynamics in the region. In 1380 BC, King Suppiluliumus leads Hittite armies into Syria, gaining control of the fortified city-states before defeating the Mitanni and pushing south to establish a buffer zone. The Hittite seizure of Syria, long the site of Egyptian-Mitanni rivalry, threatens Egypt's strategic objective of protecting the Nile River through its own buffer zone. However, the Egyptian Empire is racked with its own internal struggles for almost a century, and only responds in 1308 BC by encouraging unrest in Syria. Muwatallis, Hittite king and grandson of Suppiluliumus, quickly crushes any unrest by installing Hittite garrisons in Carchemish, Aleppo, and Kadesh. In 1285 BC, Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II leads an army north to remove Hittite influence in Syria once and for all. The Egyptians led by Ramses II were 2,500 chariots strong with an additional 18,000 infantry soldiers. The Hittites led by Muwatallis had 3,500 chariots and 17,000 infantry. The battlefield consists of the flat, gravelly plain of Kadesh, closed in by the Lebanon Mountains to the west, and the Orontes River to the east and south, off-map. The city of Kadesh sits between the Orontes River and the Al-Muqaddiyah tributary. The area adjacent to the river feature low hills and valleys, as well as significant planted fields and orchards, making it possible to hide a large force east of Kadesh. Fording sites across the Orontes River lay just north and south of the city. Muwatallis leaves a garrison in Kadesh and encamps his army northeast of the city, hidden behind the Orontes River. Muwatallis plans to ambush the Egyptian army as it marches north with his heavier three-man chariots, the Hittite army's decisive shock arm. Ramses's army is currently south of the Orontes River off-map. Its 4 divisions and chariot reserves strung out with nearly 5 kilometers between each other in the order of march in order to ensure water sources are replenished. Ramses leads the chariot reserve in the vanguard, followed by the Amun, Pare, and Ptah divisions. The Seth division marches north on a separate route west of the Lebanon Mountains. Ramses plans to concentrate his army on the plain of Kadesh and then attack the city from the west and south. Ramses leads the chariot reserve across the Orontes River to establish camp northwest of Kadesh. By the end of the day, the Amun division arrives in camp while most of the Pare division has crossed the Orontes. Sometime after crossing the Orontes, the Egyptians encounter 2 Hittite spies posing as Bedouins seeking an alliance between their king and Ramses. The Bedouins tell Ramses that the Hittite army is in Aleppo, 160 km to the north. Ramses believes this to be true and plans to rapidly seize Kadesh with little to no effort, rest his army, and then await the Hittite army. By this time, Muwatallis is aware of the Egyptian army's arrival and begins sending 2,500 elite chariots south to ford the Orontes River. With this maneuver in motion, Muwatallis sends out reconnaissance patrols to determine the Egyptian army's precise location. Egyptian troops capture one of these patrols and learn how close the Hittite army really is. Ramses immediately sends messengers south to hurry the Pare division north to camp. Ramses' messengers cannot reach the Pare division in time. The Pare division is completely unaware of any Hittites in the area and is still in march formation. Most of its troops are only carrying their armor with some of its weapons stored in the baggage train. The lead Hittite chariots emerge from the orchards around Al-Muqaddiyah and crash into the division's flanks, shattering it. The Hittite chariot ambush routs the Pare division as most of its troops flee southwest. The remnants of the division's chariots flee north to the Egyptian camp, soon pursued by the Hittite chariots after they use the wide plain to make the full turn north. The sudden arrival of the Pari division's chariots disorganizes the camp, which is followed immediately after by a strong Hittite attack on three sides. The Egyptian chariot reserve loses its nerve and flees. The Hittite heavy chariot troops, having achieved successful shock effect, dismount to fight as infantry in the camp. Fierce combat ensues in the camp between the dismounted Hittite chariot men and the Egyptian Amun division infantry. Ramses responds by scraping together any available chariots and leading them out of the camp in the northeast to hit the Hittite forces fighting there in flank. Ramses' chariots rout the Hittite chariots in the northeast and chase them back across the Orontes River. Meanwhile, Egyptian resistance in the camp collapses, but the Hittite attack loses momentum as Hittite troops stop to loot. Resistance in the Egyptian camp renews when the Seth division arrives from the northwest in full battle order, and Ramses rallies the chariot reserve. On the Hittite side, Muwatallis begins sending 1,000 allied chariots south to cross the Orontes River and join the battle. The Hittite allied chariots complete their crossing of the Orontes River, shake out and attack north to relieve pressure on the Hittite attack's right flank by striking Ramses' force in the rear. The Hittites continue to fight in the Egyptian camp, unaware the Egyptian Ptah division has arrived from the south. The Egyptian Ptah division hurries north, hitting Hittite troops fighting in the camp in rear. Much of the Hittite force is destroyed, the rest fleeing back across the Orontes River. Muwatallis does not react, and opts not to commit any of his completely intact infantry forces to the battle. Ramses forms up his army the next morning, personally beheading leaders of units that had fled during the battle. Muwatallis sends a message to Ramses suggesting a truce, which Ramses agrees to. A few days later, the Egyptian army withdraws south while the Hittites remain in Kadesh. Both leaders told their nations of a great victory for their side after the battle. In 1280 BC, Ramses and Kadesh III, after recently succeeding Muwatallis, agreed to a peace treaty among empires. Ramses married one of Kadesh's daughters, and the two empires avoided direct blows with one another for decades. However, Hatti maintained its dominance over Syria and even fomented various revolts in Palestine to weaken Egypt's grasp on its remaining buffer zone. Meanwhile, Egyptian control never advanced north of the Orontes River. Eventually, the two empires allied to try and meet the inexorable Assyrian conquests that began in 890 BC. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic historic battles.